A few days ago, I went to the theaters with my friends to watch MaXXXine, and oh boy, did we have some thoughts.
She was so hot. MaXXXine.
Oh yeah, she's hot.
It was something about the blonde hair. Like, it changed her look. I don't know.
Yeah. She's so much more cunty, for sure.
She was she was.
And the all denim.
Oh.
All jokes aside, I thought MaXXXine was pretty good. I loved the look of the film, how it began to touch upon some interesting themes, and while it was predictable, the story was entertaining. In today's video, I'm going to share my instant reaction with clips from directly after the movie, and then I'm going to talk about some aspects of the film in a little more detail. As always, I'd love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on the film, so please do not hesitate to leave a comment below. Also, a brief spoiler warning before we go any further, I will be spoiling parts of all three films, Pearl, X, and MaXXXine, in today's video.
This is me before watching MaXXXine. I'm excited. I like the first two. I'm excited to see where this goes. We just remembered it's gonna be loud and there's no subtitles.
2 hours later.
Basically, we thought the thing with the dad was obvious, and we were all not happy with the video store guy dying. He deserved to live justice for him.
Yeah, I don't know who it was, but he didn't deserve to die.
No, he was nice.
Yeah. That was so tragic.
And the only like devilish thing he did was wear the cross upside down.
Probably flirting. He did. Yeah. Yeah, no, he was flirting.
Oh my god, yeah, no. For sure. When video store guy was dying with the squeaky highlighter.
Oh my god. Yes, I loved that.
I simultaneously loved and hated it, yeah. And then when she pushes the suitcase down the stairs and the girl's body was falling out, that was kind of bad.
Crazy. I didn't expect her to like blow his head into
No,
yeah.
that I
that
actually
was,
didn't like that part
yeah.
because
I feel like they never showed that. Like,
well, I didn't like that because it was a little too obvious, like that the explosive went off in the dummy head. Like she shoots it in one scene and then the next scene, like just as like a little tiny bit later, it explodes. Like I feel like they could have made it a little more seamless.
not that I want to be realistic, but like, yeah, it didn't look real.
A few moments later.
Pearl was a little bit quicker though. Pearl was actually like evil. Still iconic, but her actions may have been unwarranted.
Yeah, so we really just not a
Yeah, I was getting freaky with the scarecrow.
I haven't seen anything.
So how are you not as confused as I am?
Right, so with that out of the way, I want to start by addressing the film's visual presentation. There were a lot of very specific scenes that I loved the cinematography, coloring, and editing of. For instance, as much as I dislike the fact that Leon died, his death scene ate. The intense squeaky highlighter sounds worked wonders for putting me on edge, and the parallel editing of MaXXXine learning her lines as Leon is murdered below her made the scene stand out. I also thought the scene in which MaXXXine lures John into an ambush was great. The flashing lights in the club and MaXXXine's pink eye makeup were phenomenal. But overall, I think the film just did an incredible job at matching the visual style of the decade it takes place in. The film had great lighting and featured vibrant, flashy colors, but also managed to imitate the haziness and grime of the 80s horror scene. Even the gore gave me 80s movie vibes, as it was a little cheesy looking at times. I mean, MaXXXine is, in part, a film about a B-list 80s horror film, and it does an excellent job at artistically imitating that style. Now, to get into how MaXXXine ties into X and Pearl, in terms of Pearl and MaXXXine themselves, both dreamed of being stars, both were in touch with exploring their sexuality, and both were concerned about aging. However, they are also very different in the sense that, Pearl gave being a star one shot, and when she didn't succeed, she murdered a bunch of people. And MaXXXine worked hard and long for her big break and didn't kill anyone who did not try to kill her first. In MaXXXine, we see MaXXXine struggle quite a bit with this connection between Pearl and herself, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Now, I want to briefly discuss some of the themes that I picked up on and throw some ideas out on the discussion table. Of course, religious extremism plays a role across all three of these films, but it is really focused on in MaXXXine with MaXXXine's story. Her father, Ernest, is some kind of sociopath who uses fear and religion to gain an audience and following. He also used young MaXXXine as a model sweet Christian girl. She ends up going against the ideals her father pushed on her by entering the adult film industry, but this only seems to embolden Ernest. See, now he's lost his precious little girl to something that he sees as sinful and devilish. Plus, with the satanic panic of the 80s, Hollywood and the media's role in the panic, and The Night Stalker, it was a prime time to gain followers through fear-mongering. Another major theme throughout the film involved MaXXXine's struggle with the events of X, her morals, and Pearl. 6 years after the events of X, MaXXXine is older and almost begins to see Pearl in herself. She's super concerned with aging before making it big, as demands in the adult film industry call for young actors, so her job can only be sustained for so long. She's also haunted by the events of X and by her own actions. She still sees herself killing Pearl and could be struggling with her morals and whether or not she's a bad person. MaXXXine also struggles as she sees Pearl in dark areas of the studio and imagines her presence while getting a cast of her face done. I think this is very interesting, as not only does it highlight how traumatized and haunted MaXXXine is by the events of X, but also how scared she is of aging and being like Pearl. Now, I think MaXXXine's morals are completely different than Pearl's. She's only ever defended herself, and she's not a killer in the sense that Pearl is. But she does have a cutthroat ruthlessness. I mean, she smashes a guy's balls open. She has this mantra of, quote, "I will not accept a life I do not deserve," end quote. And at the start of the film, we are told, quote, "In this business, until you're known as a monster, you're not a star," end quote. So we see a lot of this idea that MaXXXine's morals are not perfect. In the film, we see her say things that would probably be considered rude to other people auditioning for the film. She refuses to help police with their investigation, even though she knows people who have died and has an idea of what could have happened to them. And she even says that people need to save themselves because that's what she had to do. But I really don't think this makes her a monster, and I don't think not being a hero makes you a monster. I think she's been through a lot and she's just done. But in the end, MaXXXine kind of becomes a hero anyways, as she goes to the house in the hills to try and save Molly. Now, getting into the story, I've seen some reviews that are disappointed about the difference from the first two films. And they've explained that this one felt a bit duller because the other two set the bar so high. And I'd agree that MaXXXine is a little different from X and Pearl, but I mean, Pearl isn't alive to go psycho in MaXXXine. Instead, we have MaXXXine's father, a completely different killer with a different style. Furthermore, X and Pearl were slashers, and MaXXXine is more of a murder mystery, despite the somewhat obvious identity of the killer. And that is what I wasn't the biggest fan of. Ernest's role as the killer was just too predictable. It makes sense with the story, but I didn't like that it was staged as a murder mystery, only for there to really be no mystery or twist. MaXXXine also does get a little bit repetitive with the kills and off-screen deaths, but I do not think that the kills are the point of this film. However, that being said, two kills that I think are rather commendable include John's car compactor death and, albeit off-screen, Molly's death and the subsequent suitcase full of body parts that fell down the stairs. As for the car compactor death, I was a little worried that the scene would be gruesome, so I was kind of shielding my view with my hand, but in the end, it was really nothing compared to the damn Smile 2 trailer that played right before MaXXXine. The truck scene in that has got me traumatized. Thank you. As for Molly's death, I just really enjoyed the cinematography, color, and editing of the scene, as MaXXXine accidentally knocks the suitcase over, causing it to open and fall down the spiral staircase, sending Molly's body parts all over the place. Finally, just to spend a moment on the performances in MaXXXine, I loved Mia Goth. Playing MaXXXine, young Pearl, and old Pearl is super cool to me. Also, the scene in MaXXXine where she gets the molds of her head done has a lot more meaning because Mia had to go through those sort of processes to get the prosthetics for becoming old Pearl. And yeah, completely unrelated, Mia Goth is one of the few people that I love the no eyebrow looks on. In the end, I'm going to start rating films in categories, so for MaXXXine, I would give the story a 5 out of 10. It was interesting but far too predictable for the mystery vibes. As for the topics and themes, I'm going to give them an 8 out of 10. I just wish they had gone a little bit further with MaXXXine's morals. I'm going to give the cinematography a 10 out of 10. I know it's probably not the best film ever made, but I just really liked it. And a 9 out of 10 for the performances. Also, for a while it seemed X, Pearl, and MaXXXine would be a trilogy, but Ty West has floated the idea of doing more with the X universe, so it's kind of hard to make definitive statements about the 3 films when we do not know if there will be any more. So please, please, please let me know if you have any thoughts to add, where you think this may go, or if you think this is it. I also haven't seen X or Pearl in a while, so I'm sure that there is plenty that went right over my head. Anyways, thank you all for watching today's video. If you have any movies you'd like me to take a look at next, leave a comment below. Also, please consider leaving a like and subscribe to support me. As always, be good people, love others, and take care of yourselves. Peace.